Hello, welcome back to another Swans Cast podcast. I've got a different background today because I've rejigged all my setup around and something broke, so I've had to change it up. But looks nice, doesn't it?
It's not bad.
Better than the mess behind me, anyway.
Redecorated.
Hopefully soon I won't need to have a background because been doing some stuff in the house and I have a nicer background to actually show. But yeah, it's a bit of a mess still. But there we go. People on Spotify don't even need to care about that. They're just listening to our lovely voices. So welcome back. I got myself, Luke, and Lee's here as well.
Hello.
Back as always.
Yeah,
You've got a nice
again.
background as well. You've got Swansea.
Here's my background. I'm on Kilvey Hill at the moment.
Yeah. Is there a fire there?
Probably.
Well, there might be a zip line there soon, apparently. So that'll be nice.
Yeah, I've been here now for ages.
Zip line into the stadium and
zip line out, more like it.
Yeah, zip line out. Yeah, so we had to talk. Yeah, obviously, well, we did want to do an episode last week. We intended to, just didn't happen. Work and life just gets in the way sometimes. It is tricky, you're not gonna lie. But yeah, we keep going the best we can. So we're back now. So we will touch on some of the things. We've got a couple of talking points to go through today rather than necessarily revisit specifically what happened in the last 2 weeks. But we will be revisiting what happened in the last 2 weeks through these talking points, I guess, if that makes sense. It will make sense when we start talking about it. But we're generally going to be going for the main overarching topic of what next for Russell Martin and then delving into that question a little bit. So we'll see where it goes, really, in the next hour or so. I'm sure there's plenty to say.
Yeah, plenty going on at the moment.
Yeah.
Last 2 weeks have been quite busy.
Interesting to say the least.
Yeah.
There's also, obviously, I usually ask what we've been up to. I'd imagine you're going to say Six Nations because rugby is back at the moment, isn't it? So.
Yeah, I mean, we're blessed with some great results at the moment between the Swans and the rugby. But,
it's good being a fan of Welsh and Swans sport, isn't it?
Yeah, well, yeah, obviously we're filming on Sunday, so I went out yesterday to watch the Wales-Scotland game, the Ireland-France game, which was good to be fair, but Wales at the moment, I don't even know anymore. But we've like the problems with Welsh rugby have been masked because the international team been doing so well. We always seem to unearth like world-class players, and then everything seems like it's okay because the international team's doing so well. But now that it's not, you can just see that there's problems across the board. So you could probably do a whole podcast on that.
Probably. This is quite funny, right? My microphone, if you look at the camera, my microphone is like here where my hand is, look.
Oh, yeah.
So if I go behind it, I don't have an arm.
Oh, yeah.
It's the floor of the background.
These are quite sensitive, aren't they? These backgrounds.
Yeah, Welsh rugby, yes. Don't know what to think. I think Gallen shouldn't have come back personally, but it's going to be a tricky task for him. I'm not sure he's going to be able to do it.
He hasn't been there long, really, is he? I mean, he only came in January.
No, so... I'm not criticizing his results. I think he left at the right time, and there's more issues that, like you said, have been masked by the success. It was always going to come to a point where that stops being the case.
Yep.
At some point, we are still relying on a lot of the same team. It's quite an old team, isn't it? That helped him through his heyday. And we got close to being, finalists in the World Cup, whatever, a couple of times. So we had some good runs under Gatland. But a lot of them players now, who's next? And it's too late for this World Cup to kind of work that out. So he's kind of got a hard job on his hands. But it's
they'll win it.
Yeah. But it's like, does it damage his legacy, Is that what he'll be remembered for? No?
I don't think it will. No, I think he's done so much when he was here. I think over time you'll forget about this if he's only here for like a year or two.
They signed him to the next World Cup, didn't he?
Yeah, I think it was an option, wasn't it? I don't know if they will. I don't know if it was just sort of a patch job for now, but we'll see.
Do you think one of the big problems is the Gatland rule thing with the players not being able to leave?
I don't know, really. I think that is an issue, but I kind of agree with it because we need to encourage people to stay in Wales.
Yeah, but they're all starting to not care.
Yeah, I know, but they're not caring because the regions are sham. I know like the Ospreys are doing well at the moment, but like it's just it is absolutely horrendous at the moment. The state of the game, like below the international level, it's horrendous. Like
Yeah.
we just don't get the numbers anymore. Like I watched a documentary about Wales in the 70s, and just like the number of players we had playing and number of players that were available coming through were just ridiculous. And now we just like the numbers are dwindling in Wales. Teams are not playing. There's hundreds of games being called off because a local level and a bit higher.
Yeah.
Just because they haven't got enough players. It's just a bit worrying. But we'll see. Like I said, we always seem to unearth like one or two good players, though. We still manage to find one or two good world-class players. So, yeah, we'll see anyway.
Is Zamet injured at the moment or something?
Yeah, I think he had a knock, didn't he? So he's out at the moment.
So that Rio Dyer should have scored yesterday.
Yeah, but
maybe the pass was hard. But
just way off it yesterday.
Anyway, that's enough of rugby. So as always, if you are enjoying what we're talking about, don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you're on YouTube, or follow us on Spotify, and leave a like as well to show you enjoyed what we're talking about. Get involved in the comments to give us your thoughts and feedback. And if you've got any questions or any things to ask that we can discuss in the next video, let us know, and we'll be sure to raise the topics going forward. We always like a bit of fan interaction. It's more relatable. That's what we're going for, in a bit of discussion. So get involved. And it's all a game of opinions at the end of the day. We're not necessarily right in what we're saying. We're just trying to discuss it, see what's going on. Sometimes we be a little bit left field, but sometimes you just got to ask the questions, haven't you?
It's got to be done.
Which is perhaps maybe what we'll do a little bit of today. So obviously the theme, as I said, what next for Russell Martin? So the first place to start is the form, I guess. Why is he being questioned? Or by some quarters anyway. I know he's still got a lot of backing. There's still a little bit of like, a lot of people would be happy to see him go, I guess. A lot of people have sympathy for him. Think he's got a impossible job on his hands, maybe. That's all the things we're going to talk about today. But 2 wins in 16 is the facts on the paper. That is the form. 2 wins in 16 games. There's quite a lot of draws in there, but 2 losses now in a row. A lot of goals conceded, 7 in the last 2 games. Obviously, the 4-3 loss to Birmingham, which in itself asks maybe more questions than just bad defending. There's other issues there. And the 3-0 loss to Sheffield, which we just had a recap of the goals before jumping on you, and I'm not sure we wanted to do that.
Yeah, no.
15th in the table, 39 points. We've been saying for a long time, only 3 points off the playoffs. It's starting to slip away now. 7 points all of a sudden. So yeah, what next? We have got a game in hand on Watford, though, who are in 6th, but then Middlesbrough got two games in hand on them, and they're higher. So they're starting to slip away. Some teams are starting to get some form together that's sticking. There's a lot of teams still in our boat, but some teams are starting to look like they want to push for the second half of the season. We don't look like we are one of them. So 2 wins in 16. What's going wrong?
Well, there's plenty going wrong at the moment, isn't there? Like on and off the pitch. But I could be wrong. But I think that it's gone. The playoffs gone. I think the season's over. I can't see us. I mean, it's not beyond us. We could pick up, a bit of form and go on a run and get into the playoffs late. But I can't see it at the moment. What's going wrong? I don't know. I think let's just take the owners out of it for a minute, because we know the problems, and we'll come on and talk about that and the transfer window and everything. That's obviously a major factor. Not disputing that. But I just want to push back a little bit, because it seems like that with a lot of fans, like Russell Martin has a free pass because the owners have done what they've done, or what they haven't done. They haven't backed us in this transfer window. It seems like Russell Martin's got a free pass that, it doesn't matter. He can't do anything. He's played. He's going with one hand tied behind his back and all this, and it just seems to have like a free hit. But I think you've got to be careful, because I think he does need to be criticised sometimes. And I don't like the fact that fans just think, he can do whatever he wants. Basically, if we lose 10 games in a row, be like, oh well, he hasn't signed players, he hasn't done this. Whereas before, like, it's kind of been the situation since we've come down. It always has been. Like, obviously he didn't get anybody in January, which was ridiculous. But we have had some players for 2 years that he's been here. He has sort of had players come in and go in the two. I know this was a bad window. This was a really bad window, but I do think we have, we needed some cover, basically, didn't we? And that was bad. But he has had a bit of
cover
backing.
at this point. We need some players to come into the first team and challenge.
Yeah, we do. And I'm not disputing that. I think like the window is absolutely shocking, and that needs to be addressed. But then, like you said, 2 wins in 16 games. That's ridiculous. That's horrendous form. That's relegation form. And then, you look at like since the Cardiff win, we beat Cardiff at home. Seems like ages ago now. Those are the 16 games since. I know we had the World Cup in between. There's 2 wins. One was the Watford win at Christmas, the 4-0, which was a bit of a mad game. They played really well. It was just a bit of a one-off, it seems like. And the other one was Sunderland away, where they went down to 10 men. I don't actually think they played that well. So I don't know. I'm quite worried because it's 2 years now he's in. Well, before I say this, I'm not saying sack him, by the way, either. I just think that's not the way to go. I think he needs time. But he has been here for 2 years and we still can't defend. You look at the 3 goals we conceded yesterday.
Speaking of,
4
while
goals
you're on
we conceded.
defending, before we go into them, I was going to just back your point up on defending, right? 6 clean sheets in 30 games.
So that's absolutely atrocious. Bearing in mind, though, as well, like he spent 2 million on Darlin. That was his player that he wanted. He wanted him in his squad.
But like, it's not even just Darlin, though, is it? So it's hang on a sec.
And he brought Wood.
Darlin, Wood, Fisher,
Sorinola.
I guess that's it, isn't it, for the defense?
Yeah, but it's just 2 seasons now he's been in. We still can't defend. There's no excuse for that. Whatever you want to say about the owners.
Last year, but then you could say we had like Wolf and Christie perhaps were helping that a little bit there with the but then they prioritized centre backs in the summer. Maybe that wasn't where they needed to prioritize.
Yeah, but this is what I'm saying as well. Like, I know everyone says like, oh, he hasn't been back. He isn't back. All those players he wanted. Now Wood was like on his radar from MK Dons. I know he's very young as well, so he's got a long way to go. Sorinola he wanted, doesn't play him now.
Wood wasn't from MK Dons. He was from Middlesbrough.
No, I know, but he was Middlesbrough. But he identified him. He was in MK Dons. I think I remember him saying he was looking at him.
Okay.
Like previously, obviously Darlin, Sorinola, Fisher. Everybody's absolutely killing Fisher at the moment. Like, oh my god, like get him out of the city. That's Russell Martin's player. He wanted him. So if everyone's saying like, oh, how bad he is, and I've seen horrendous abuse from him, and he hasn't been great, obviously, but then it's like, oh yeah, but it doesn't matter. Russell Martin's got a free pass.
Yeah, but I just think to be that much better than him. I don't even know if he has. He's done a decent job. I don't know. But like, he hasn't been like lately. Like, he's made a couple of errors as well. So, do you blame the keepers like necessarily?
I don't know. Like, if you look at last week and yesterday again, Sheffield United and Birmingham game last week, I think the last goal was a bit dodgy for Sheffield United. He comes out and cleans out Cabango. We'll come on to that. But then last week, it was Cabango's fault for the penalty. I think maybe one was his fault where he should have come out when he was backtracking one-on-one. The other ones, I don't think he can save the 2 headers. But I know he did make a big mistake, but it didn't lead to a goal. But he got absolutely slated for it. So I don't know. It just seems a bit of a weird narrative. It's like Fisher out, Fisher. This is awful. And then in the same breath, it's like, oh, Martin's working with one hand tied behind his back. Well, he brought Fisher into the club because he wanted him.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't want to slate him too much because I really like him. I want him to stay. I want him to have the time. But then you also got to be careful that you're not just like, oh, everything he does is right. You can't slate. Oh, you're not allowed to slate him. If you say he's done something wrong, oh my god, like that's wrong. He's young himself. He's still learning.
Yeah, And that's where you've got to decide where we are and what the expectations are, I guess. There's a lot of questions in there, but it's like if if you're going to say, look, it's a project with time, look, maybe it's going to take a bit longer than we thought. I'll be honest about it. There's that communication. At least you can set yourself up for it. It don't help when you have a transfer window like January when it comes to like fan. I don't know what the word is. Keeping them on board, you know what I mean? Yeah. And the thing is, as well, I know we were on a bad form anyway. Obviously, the Sunderland game was all right. And then I know you said they didn't play that well necessarily, but got a win.
Yeah.
Bristol City was a bit poor. We drew at QPR. And then that was it for January, wasn't it? Because the Stoke got postponed and then it was Birmingham.
Yeah.
Like, the interview I saw Martin speaking after the January transfer, and he just seems done. Like he's deflated.
And I have a bit of an issue with that because I understand that myself, I would be annoyed for the way the January transfer window went. But I think he's been quite clever in a way because he's got the fans on his side. He's saying, like the owners, he's basically in so many ways. He's saying, I know I'm doing so much. I'm doing as much as I can. Like I got a lot of time for the club. I love the fans, all this. He's positioned himself very well off this transfer window, I think. I'm not saying he doesn't mean it because, like, I think I do get that you get the sense that he really does like being here and wants to do well here. But I also think, like, he said all the right things to position himself in a good place, like, off the back of that window. And, like, that attitude, like him just being, like, down and done, it's going onto the pitch.
Yeah.
You see it yesterday when I highlighted that thing to you earlier, where that second goal comes off the bar and nobody reacts to it. The body language is awful. And I just think
everyone in the wall, wasn't it? Everyone in the wall was just watching Anna Cham.
Yeah, I get the frustration. I do understand. I'm frustrated myself. But then that like sulky attitude and being down, I'm done, and it's low. That's just feeding into the players.
Yeah.
And I have got a bit of an issue with that at the moment. I do understand the frustration, but then that's not good enough. Like when you got to play on Saturday, you can't have everybody just sulking. Because he made a comment in the press conference after the game yesterday, where he said, I think it was the first goal. Was it Sandenberg that scored the first goal? I think it was.
Yeah.
I think, yeah. Anyway, well, he said something like, we made a mistake or something, and then we're punished. Someone scored who they paid a lot of money for. It's like, well, hang on, there can't be an excuse now for every game. Like, they paid money for players, so it's okay if we lose. I just think that attitude's like feeding into the pitch. No, I don't like it.
Yeah, it's true. I mean,
a bit of rant there.
No, it's fair. Like it is definitely rubbing off. Like people slated Cooper when he was here, but he made us hard to beat based on what we had. And
exactly,
our defending, like we just, our goal scoring is not even that bad. Like we could score more, but it isn't actually that bad. Our goal scoring in terms of the league. I'll try to see if I can get it up now. Hang on. So we've got
while you get
goals.
that up. We got 43 goals. I was going to say, while we got that up, in that in this 16 game stretch, I had a look earlier. You might want to double check my maths, but I had a look earlier. It was in those 16 games, we've only won 2. We've conceded 25 goals. I didn't include the extra time goal that Bristol City scored, so that would be 26. But 25 goals.
Yeah, we're joint 4th on goals scored. Says it all.
Yeah, that's good. It's good. Yeah, we can't defend. Like literally, you need to be tough in this league. You have.
And we've been slating Peru for his goal scoring this year, but actually, his numbers aren't too bad. Yeah,
he has picked up lately. In all fairness, with his goal scoring,
he could get 20 this year.
Yeah.
I don't know if he will, but he could. He's on he's on 11, so maybe he won't get there. There's only 14 games left or something.
Yeah,
but 15.
That's an average.
High teens, isn't it? High teens is good.
Oh yeah, I mean 15 goals for a season in the Championship is pretty good off the back of 20 last year. I mean you can't argue with that. But that's like the goals we conceded in those 16 games. It's an average of 1.5 goals every game. It's horrendous.
What did Whittaker do when he came on yesterday?
I didn't really see I didn't really see much of it, to be honest.
I just like the fanfare of him in there and just gonna be our savior. So
yeah, I didn't.
just wanted to
didn't
see what he
him.
did because it didn't look like he did much. I know. No, sorry, that's probably harsh. People are going to come at me. I'm not saying I expect him fireworks. Just the way that people speak about him in it.
Yeah,
He came on in the 55th minute, so we had nearly the full second half to do something. And let's have a look. Touches 18. I don't know. Not much going on there. Not much to really discuss anyway. But yeah, I'm not judging him off this. Just some people seem to think he was gonna be amazing. That's all.
Yeah.
We were touching reality, saying he's done good in League One, but I don't think he necessarily showed that when he was here before. But then maybe his head's not in the same place as it was when he was excelling at Plymouth, and it got to take that into consideration. Okay, so a lot going wrong then. The form's not going great. You did touch on it already, but some players getting stuck, like Fisher, and obviously we needed to sign some players in January. We'll discuss that. But do you want to speak more about like Fisher specifically, like getting stick? Is it fair? Do you think? Is the criticism warranted? Or
I think criticism is fair, but it's like it seems a bit over the top for me. Like it seems like he's been the scapegoat for all of our problems. Now, don't forget he hasn't played in all these 16 games where we've only won 2 games.
he didn't play
So
like the last 2 or 3, any?
Exactly. But even when Bender got injured, like before he even kicked the ball, it was like, oh my God, the season's over, Fisher's back in. Like, what does that do for a player's confidence? He is absolutely destroyed. Like, okay, I do agree. Like, probably does deserve a bit of criticism. He's making some mistakes, but it just seems a bit over the top for me. Seems a bit over the top, especially when like other players and the manager don't get that same level of stick for making bigger mistakes. I'd say.
What players do you think should be getting a bit more stick then?
I don't know. I can't think of anything specific, but say like
I would say Cabango. I don't think he's been having a great season.
No, that's a great example because yesterday he was awful again, and he was against Birmingham, absolutely atrocious. But he doesn't seem to get that level of stick. Do you know what I mean?
No, because he's one of our own and all that, but I just don't think he's had a good year. Really,
Joe
he's had some
Allen's
highlight moments, but it's been quite a few games where I think Cabango's been poor.
Yeah.
Joe Allen.
I think well, 9 times out of 10, Joe Allen is class, but I went to Sunderland, he was absolutely awful, I thought, in that game. Give away so much ball, but then like it just doesn't fit the narrative, and does it, to say that he's had a bad game, and Cabango. And he used to be Grimes. I remember at the start of the season, there was, I always laugh at this, there was someone sitting by me in the stadium, and I think Grimes gave the ball away, and this was obviously at the start, and I think Grimes has sort of come into his own now, and I think a lot of fans obviously have accepted that he's
because there was a game where he was not available, and everyone realised what he does.
Yeah, and I think I remember a specific game where he tried maybe a forward pass or something and give it away, and then there's fans around me up and, oh my God, Grimes again, giving the ball away, rubbish, oh my God, terrible, all this. And then I think like Joe Allen gave the ball away 5 minutes later, and it was, oh, unlucky, Joe, unlucky, come on, Joe, let's go, unlucky. Just like, well,
Yeah, that's fair.
I'm not slating, I don't come across like I'm like slating Joe Allen, because he's outstanding, obviously. And hats off, he retired this week, didn't he, from Wales? Being one of the best players in my time anyway, Welsh players. Outstanding. But then I'm just saying, like, you can't destroy Fisher for making a couple of mistakes and then not call anyone else out on their mistakes.
No, that's true. Okay, so Bender got injured in which it was in the
QPR
game. So in January.
Yeah.
Highlighting, we probably knew, because QPR was on the 21st of January, so we would have known the extent of his injury before the transfer window closed. Right, we obviously were already looking to fix a few problems that we didn't fix. That would have added to the list of things. But would that have been something important, especially even if it's just cover for Fisher, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm not trying to knock Webb, who's on the bench, as the cover. Maybe Martin is like comfortable with that. But I don't believe I recall him making an appearance for the first team. I could be wrong. Maybe he has. I don't recall that he has.
I don't think he has.
Was he on the bench for Sheffield? Yeah, he was on the bench for Sheffield. Yeah, so just that. Well, I mean, we know how January went, but again, like we desperately needed players. Goalkeeper was added to the list. Like, what is the importance of the failings of January on maybe the season, on Martin, on? I know you touched on it. You can't use it as an excuse, but it's got to. We've got to take it into consideration, surely, to
Oh
an
no,
extent. Like, and what's the owner saying to him? Because he seemed pretty in his interview afterwards. He seemed so downbeat about the fact that, like, he did think they were at least going to get something, and he ended up losing significantly to what he had with nothing coming in, other than Whittaker being recalled. And the fact that he called that press conference with all his coaches there to say, like, we are still here to like try our best or whatever.
Yeah.
I was surprised that nothing. I know there was obviously the interview then with the owners and all that, and some stuff come up with the trust. And I wonder if he had a slap on the wrist for that. I don't know. It can't. I feel like it's not going to be all gravy, is it? The relations there.
There's definitely a discord between like the staff that work in Swansea day in day out. Russell Martin, Julian Winter, the head of recruitment. His name escapes me now. Josh, something. I can't remember, but yeah, I think there's a massive discord between the staff here and the owners out in America. I think like what was clear in Martin's interview was that he was like, well, it just came across like, well, we've done everything we could possibly do here. They were working on January recruitment from like October or something, he said.
Yeah.
So obviously between
Well, we
Martin,
said that was probably the case, didn't we? That they had their
yeah,
plans and then probably got made more difficult by the players kicking off.
yeah, oh yeah, oh that. I was going to come on to that as well. That's been a massive factor. I said about like Obafemi kicking off has had a dent in our season, and other players as well. But I think in terms of I can't remember what point I was making. Well, no, this is what came across when in his interview was that it seemed like they had put so much hard work into identifying targets, like between him and Winter and the head of recruitment. They obviously had a list of targets. He said some were, less realistic than others. Obviously, they got to have plans. And then he touched on like that, you can't leave it this late. And then he mentioned time difference and stuff. So it just seemed like there's a massive like miscommunication, maybe deliberately from the owner's part.
Yeah.
Maybe they thought, right, we're going to wait just until the last minute and see if we can sell Whittaker, see if Obafemi goes, see if Patterson goes. Wait till the last minute and then see if we can just like sort of scrape some money back before we spend any more. And it sounded like it became desperate.
They had
then.
deals, didn't they? They had deals lined up basically, and
Yeah, it sounded like it became desperate.
But I can't remember which interview it was in and who said it, but they were saying how is 11 as the final say on any deal. So they have like all this stuff in place. They were in contract talks with people. They had it like all done and dusted and ready to be done over the line. And then it's like on his desk, and it stays on his desk, it seems, for like a couple of days a week, and then all of a sudden that player's gone somewhere else. And that happened a couple of times by the sounds of it, because everything's done here, but he has the final say. So that's why they always slows the process down. Someone was saying that, but I can't quite recall where that came from.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I remember reading something about that or hearing it. Yeah, it sounds right. But
it might be in the interview himself, but
it may be
himself. But
what was clear though is a massive problem in the process.
Just say the funds that you've got available and put someone in charge who's more available to deal with it. Because if like stuff moves fast, in these situations, if he's tied up in America and there's a time difference and all this, and he's like probably got meetings, he's got a lot of other things going on. He's got other football clubs, he's got other sports clubs. Swans isn't his only business. That's the bottom line. So you got all these people to go Winter, whatever. Like, surely you can just say, this is what you've got available. Like, that is it. So you make them decisions. Like, why does he need to have that final say on players when he probably doesn't even understand what they're going to offer, really, in a footballing sense? He's getting told, isn't he? He's getting told, like, we want this guy for this reason, whatever. That's not going to mean anything to him. He's only going to be looking at any of them deals from a financial point of view.
Yeah.
If he's the guy that's making that call,
It's worrying though as well.
Whatever
Because,
transfers are, even if it's like Martin asking for Fisher, Martin asking for Darling, you know, he's still only ever looking at that. He's probably always like, can I resell them on if they have a good season? Or like, that's always the question. That's probably always what is basing his decision. So any
but I
kind of
think
January deals that he might have done, you'd probably be paying over the odds new in January, usually to get someone in. So then the profit margin in future sales probably comes down. So maybe that's why you're not so happy to go for it.
But I think, like in the summer, for example, we sold Flynn Downs, and I think it was relatively early on in the window. So I think they knew that deal was coming. And then obviously it did come early. So it was 12 million in the pot. So that probably made it easier to, for them to sign off and say, yeah, go and sign. But this window, I think it seems like the proper issue that Martin had was that they left it so late. I think he commented on that a couple of times. I think they like you said, they probably come across his desk and he's like, right, okay, we'll see. Let's see if Whittaker goes. Let's see if we can sell Obafemi. And they left it too late. But it sounds worryingly. It sounds like it became desperate in the end because they were on about Carl and Grant, weren't they? And I think coming in on loan.
Yeah,
and
but that was
I don't know if it
relying
was
on
him.
West Brom having someone in themselves. So you're relying on
I know, but
factors
that's
you can't even control.
But we hadn't even heard of a Carl and Grant rumor until like an hour left of the window that night, or half an hour left that window. I'm just thinking,
where's that come from?
That's just desperation at that point, surely. And then they said that, I'm sure, I can't remember, it was either Silverstein or Levine said that they actually avoided some mistakes because they were going to make players out of desperation, like the highest paid player in the squad. Now, I don't know who that was. It might have been.
No, it was Carl and Grant was going to be one of the highest earners, wasn't he?
And then, but they'll do that. But then,
although he's going to come in on loan, I thought, wasn't he?
Yeah, he is going to come in on loan, but maybe obviously he's on big wages.
He would have taken his wage.
But it just seems like it's really worrying because it just seemed like they were way off, like the process. I don't know why, and obviously we share Russell Martin's frustration with that because maybe 3 players we would have been maybe looking up. I don't know. The form doesn't suggest it, but you never know.
Yeah, come out with a slump, and you never know in it. But we're not getting out of the slump. That's the problem. I do love the fact that looking at the team from the Sheffield game, obviously Latibody got injured, and Sorinola still isn't starting at right back. Norton came in, which there was rumours about him not having the right attitude, and at the same time as Patterson, and they dropped out of the squad. We've hardly seen Sorinola since. He can't get on. He can't. I mean, I'm not saying he's not like Norton's been good for us, but he's always kind of been centre back now. We've very rarely been used right back recently, and he's getting in ahead of the guy we signed to play there.
Yeah.
I feel like he is kind of finished here. He just didn't get recalled. It kind of feels like.
Yeah.
Which is another player on the bench just sitting there, so it's not helping the situation.
Like not an option.
He's an option if Norton gets injured. Like, you've got to put him
on. Out of absolute desperation.
Yeah, I've got to put him on now, for God's sake. That sort of thing, which is not right. I'm not saying he's had an excellent season either. I don't think he's been that good. But, like, something's happened again there. Like, what is it with, I don't know, with the players that we are signing and throwing their toys out the pram? You are right, though. Like, if they did have any preparation, I think we spoke about this already in one of the other podcasts, for whatever they were going to get in January, I'm sure that changed when all the players started kicking off. And that must not have helped. But, like, what happened to the original pre-planning? Like, you could have at least got one of them in instead of nothing. Because they would have had plans from October, like, stuff on Thingy's desk. But, like, I just, these guys were still here then, and they weren't necessarily trying to ship them out. So why do we have to wait at least to get one of the ones that was originally planned to be an option?
The fact they brought nobody in and lost, Obafemi, Okaflex went back.
Finley Stevens
went back.
And then we've, I mean, not that it matters in terms of first team, but then again, it shows past mistakes. Ogbeta going out on loan. Brandon Cooper. I mean, I feel like he could have had a place in first team this year. Like, instead of, I'm not saying Wood's been bad, but like, could we have not bought Wood, got someone else in a position that we needed more cover in and used Cooper? that would have been a better option, considering how hard it seems for us to get people in. Get like someone in a position that we're struggling and use Cooper or Darling. Do we need to spend 2 million on Darling? Develop Cooper instead. I don't think he had that bad of a time when he was in the team last year. And then Garrick, innit? Like we're crying out for pace. He's gone Forest Green on a free transfer, basically.
I know. I think that might have been part of it as well. Like they needed to ship off a few more before they could maybe get some of their signings over the line. And the fact then that they didn't get them over the line has left us in like an awful position, and that's probably why like they're so annoyed.
Who was the manager when Garrick punched someone? Was it Cooper?
Yeah, it was Cooper. Yeah, against
Hull. Do you reckon that's what's finished him here? Like he just after that was like, right.
I think it did. Yeah, after that, like I don't think he ever came back into the team, did he? And then he went out on loan, and I think that probably finished it off. But that was great. I loved that.
What a way to end your career at a club.
That was when no fans were allowed in the stadium as well. I remember that. Brilliant.
I mean, but we're crying out for pace, weren't we? Like, I just don't. Why are we just not using? If you're going to go on a free transfer anyway, how desperate are we to free up Garrick's wages? He can't have been on much.
No, exactly. This is what I mean. This is the worrying factor.
Just put him on the bench, like just chuck him on and see what happens. You've got Cameron Congreve doing it, and yeah, you might be one for the future, but like, you haven't really done much, have you? So why couldn't you just try it with Garrick? He's 24. He's had a bit of a couple of loans. He had a couple of decent.
Yeah, even just to have bodies in, like you said, maybe chuck him in.
You're down a goal or two, a bit of raw pace, can run at people. Maybe he'll win you a penalty. I don't know. I'm not. Maybe you could have converted him to a wing back. Like he did try. Well, Cooper tried, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Good shout.
Just seems weird that we're so struggling for a squad, and then some of these players you can just let them go.
Yeah, I think. It was a poor window. Not to sign anybody was ridiculous. It was quite worrying, really, because I don't know where we go from here. I don't know. I kind of get the like I was just circling back a bit. I just get the feeling there is that divide now between like Russell Martin and the owners, and I think what also made it a bit more dodgy was that they quickly got in and did an interview first, and before he had a chance to face the media. So they kind of said all the right things on paper again. Like, we tried and it's hard in January, and we really tried and we're committed to the club and we want to push for the playoffs. Like we back Russ and all this, and they said all the right things on paper. So then obviously if Russell Martin then comes out the next day and just starts like slating them, it looks bad. Then it looks like he's sort of instigating it, doesn't it? So I think that was a bit of a clever play by them as well. So it's a bit worrying because I think, I don't know, if that relationship's not there, are they not putting money in because they don't want to back him?
Get rid of him.
I know, but
I'm not saying I want him to go, but it's only going to end one way, isn't it? If you're going to not back him because you don't trust him, then he can't be here. If you don't trust the manager, you've got to get rid of him. Like, but then, what I don't want to be a managerial merry-go-round either.
No.
You're either having a project or you're not. Like I just look at Cardiff.
This is what
look at how Cardiff have ended up. So that's
exactly
what happens.
Exactly. But I will say, like, I don't want him to get sacked at all. I think this is a long-term project that could really work out. As much as I do criticize him, like, don't sack him. I don't want him to walk either. It's a bit worrying at the moment. But again, like with the goalkeeper situation, just looking at it from the owner's point of view, and I don't agree with it, obviously, but if they've gone to them and said, "Oh, look, we need a goalkeeper now because Bender's injured," well, they might have said, "Well, we spent 400k on a goalkeeper in January last year. Like, you have to use him now, and then you have to use one of the youngsters as backup. Like, we're not buying another goalkeeper." That might have been the thought process. To kind of understand in that sense, because he did buy Fisher last year. So they can't then say, "Oh, we need another goalkeeper now." He's like, "Well, Bender's injured and we bought one last year that you told us was good enough." So they might just be saying, "Well, you've got to use him till the end of the season and Bender comes back next year." But they could have got a lone goalkeeper in for half a season, couldn't they? So I don't know. But I just think, I don't know where this is going to, well, there's only one way it's going to end up if it carries on like this: is Russell Martin's going to walk, or they're going to sack him. So either they actually start backing up what they're saying and start like backing us a bit more, or they've got to go, because it's just not sustainable.
No. I did mention Cardiff, though. Let's just appreciate the fact that they are level on points with Wigan, who are in a relegation zone.
They've been so lucky.
They got a game advantage on the bottom three, though. If all three of them won or drew, they would go into relegation.
Yeah, obviously how lucky they've been, though, because like Huddersfield played Blackpool in the week. It was a game in hand. I think like if Huddersfield won, then Cardiff would have dropped in, and Blackpool scored last minute to draw, so it kept Cardiff out. And then Huddersfield sacked their manager. And then I think Huddersfield winning yesterday and Wigan scored late, so it meant Cardiff still stayed out. It's just like they keep... I think it's a psychological thing as well, because if you drop in, it's hard to get out, isn't it? But at the moment, see, these teams can't... Well, even Cardiff are losing games, they can't get above them.
Who knows? It could be us in a couple of weeks. But I think we've got a nice gap, but you just don't know, do you?
Well, this is what I was going to highlight as well. So I think like we've agreed. I want to just put it out there that I think the owners have been awful in that transfer window, and I fully like support Russell Martin's frustration. But I'm looking at this a bit now. We're 7 points off the playoffs. Only 10 points off the relegation zone at the moment. We're not going to get relegated. Like, you know, quite fairly-ish confident that we're not going to get relegated. No, I think we got enough in the bank, but we're 10 points from the relegation zone. I was looking at this earlier.
We got more points than the three teams that went down last year.
Yeah. No, we won't go down. I'm just saying, like, we could get sucked down into the like lower half of the table where we're above the relegation, not near the relegation zone, but above it, because we have to play all of the bottom six in the next couple of weeks. We play all of the bottom six. Now, if we've only won 2 games in 16, if we're not winning all them games, starting with Blackpool on Wednesday night, we will be slipping right down there.
Yeah.
And that's worrying. And that's the...
Yeah, sorry. Carry on.
That's right. There's no excuse for that.
Yeah, sorry, carry on. I'll have to edit that out.
Yeah, I'm saying we're not going to get sucked. We're not going to go down, but we could get sucked in. Like, we got to play all of the bottom 6 at the moment, and then I think looking at the bottom 8, I think it's QPR. No, it's not QPR. Reading.
We have QPR the other day, didn't we?
Obviously, Reading beat us. But we play all the bottom 6, and I think out of the bottom 6 at the moment, we beat Cardiff and we beat Blackpool away last minute. Otherwise, we haven't won any of the games.
Yeah. We have beat QPR, though.
We did beat QPR, and we beat them at home and we drew away.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's tough, isn't it?
I think I don't know. It is. This is why it's really hard at the moment, because like I obviously back Russell Martin, but then also like he's got to show more on the pitch. I think I don't want him to have this free ride.
Yeah, but let's talk about some of the stuff on the pitch then. Before we finish, his managerial style, stuff that he's been doing. Like, been near a year and a half at this point, so has he learned some of the lessons that he should have learned? You look at the game against Birmingham, and a lot of people have been questioning his game management, which is always easy to do in hindsight, I'll say, before we get into any discussion. I'm not saying I agree or whatever. I'm just saying in hindsight, it is always easier. Like, I overheard a conversation in a coffee shop, actually, Friday in town, where they were talking about, like, the fact that he brought defenders on when you won goal up, and on paper, that makes sense. But then when you lose, everyone goes at him, and it's like you can't win, which that is a fair point to make. Perhaps it wasn't the right way to manage that game. And then obviously when player gets injured, you've got more subs at the moment available to you. You can make 5 substitutions as long as it's only in 3 occasions. So if you're going to make 3 subs, surely you one of them is like a double sub, so that you still have that opportunity.
Yeah.
Rather than go 1-1-1, you go 1 2 or 2-1, just so you keep a slot available in case you need it. So you're still using the 3 new players, but you've got 2 that you can still
like
bring
safety
on.
net.
You know? Yeah, so the defending we've mentioned is poor against Birmingham, is poor against Sheffield. It's been poor really all season, if you're honest. 6 clean sheets in 30 games is awful, especially considering where we were under Cooper. We were like going for Golden Glove and all that with the keepers and the most clean sheets. It's like the complete opposite. I don't necessarily like if these keepers were here under Cooper, don't tell me they wouldn't have had more clean sheets. Like, it's not all on the keeper before we start slating Fisher.
Yeah, you're right.
What's going on in the back, innit? Like, why are they so hectic? And
I don't know
it's
what's
not
happened
always
lately.
because we're giving the ball away. I know that we do make errors like that, but we're just poor at the back.
No,
so
we are.
the
We
man
are
management
absolutely all over the place.
and what is the tactics in our defending that are so bad?
No, we're all over the place. Like, so I looked at the goals yesterday. Like I said, the first goal, that Berg is free in the middle, and he passes it into the net from like 18 yards. There's a massive gap between Cabango and Wood.
Yeah,
like a massive gap between them, which should never
I
be
think
there.
that's in Cham's
Nobody,
man, by the way.
yeah,
He didn't
nobody's
track
picking him up. He's got so much space in the middle, and Cham's not marking anybody. He just strides onto that and passes it into the net. It's right in the corner, and you can't blame Fisher for that one. The defending was awful for that. And then you've got the second goal is the worst one we have conceded all season for me, because I know the third one was bad too, and I know people would point to that one, but that free kick goes off the bar. When it comes back off the bar, all the Swans players were in the box, the defenders in the wall, and everyone else who was in the box at the time. None of them move. The player runs from the 18-yard box to come and hit it
Manning
before
was
anybody
trying to
can.
header it in the most unconventional way. You
Manning
can say
tries to
tried
head
at
it and
least.
miss it. But there's about 6 players there who haven't moved, and this one player has walked in. I just think that's atrocious. It was awful. And that I come back to that again about the attitude, just having that like sulk and the body language, and like not having the drive. And
then Cabango highlighted his defensive form in the last goal, and Fisher, I guess, did open himself up for a bit of criticism. I don't know why he came out really.
Yeah, to be fair, he does make a mistake there, but then it's the last minute of the game. We're 2-0 down, and 5 players have let that player run through before Fisher gets there.
Yeah.
So it was a collective mistake from the whole defence, all of them. But it's so bad. It's not like we conceding goals often either, where teams like open us up and you think like, oh, they've scored a good goal there.
Yeah.
We are just conceding atrocious goals week in, week out, and tons of them as well. And I don't know who the set piece coach is these days, because it's awful that we conceded the 2 set pieces against Birmingham last week, didn't we? Which cost us.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Like back in the old days, we never been able to defend set pieces.
And like with going back to the sub as well, I think it was poor because Perot was in the form of his life in that game. He scored 2. He took him off, having already taken Cullen off. He took Perot off and put Darlin on.
So who's up top then? Whittaker?
He brought Whittaker on for Cullen, I think. So then it was Whittaker and Perot up there. And then we were playing well going forward. We were playing really well going forward. And then he took Perot off and put Darlin on for an extra defender. And then from that moment, we just dropped back. So Whittaker's like chasing shadows because obviously he's not getting the ball. We've just dropped back completely at 3-2. So it's not just that he's like made the sub. It's obviously like unless the players have naturally dropped back because they're 3-2 up. But it must be an instruction that he's put another defender on. And they've all just dropped deep. And then Birmingham just came at us for the last 15 minutes. And even when they equalised, when you go to 3-3, you then have nothing to get back into the game. And that was the frustration. It's like, okay, if you've made the decision to shore us up, but what happens if we do concede now? Because the only thing that could have happened was us conceding equaliser, and then the only thing that could have happened after that was them scoring or we get a draw. Like we were put in that position at home against Birmingham, who hadn't won in 6. That was our option. It was like, well, that's poor. That was a poor result. That was.
Yeah,
I think it's
that
just.
is.
I think it's just a lot at the moment. I know, like, obviously, what we get on the pitch is the most frustrating thing because that's what we see week in, week out. But I think, like, on the pitch and off the pitch, it's just a mess at the minute. Real mess. I don't know whether
I
the
just think
team
that
might pick up
January transfer
now.
window being the way it is has
That's
come at the
knocked the
worst
wind. It has
possible
knocked the
time as
stuff
well.
in. It's knocked the stuff in out of the
Like,
club. It's knocked the stuff in out anyone, everyone.
The last thing I wanted to mention, I forgot to mention it earlier, in regards to it and why that you're saying about like Martin's body language and demeanour knocking the players back and being a bit of a downer. Pardon me. Probably true. But then I saw like in the pre-match interviews before the Sheffield game, Grimes was calling out Obafemi, which I like. Fair enough. But like, how much of an impact has that had? And like Patterson's still there, and he's the same boat, you know.
Yeah.
Like maybe it is like just not all happy days in the camp.
I don't think it is. I don't think it is at the moment. I think that window has just like proper, just taken the stuffing out of everyone, management, players, fans, everyone. I think everyone's just on a bit of a. Hopefully they can pick up form now between now and the end of the season. Like hopefully they'll get over this blip, and start picking up a couple of wins between now and the end of the season, and then we have to start again in the summer. But at the moment, it's just I'm worried for Wednesday night, mind, against Blackpool.
Well, it'll be interesting, won't it? But like just for reference as well, Grimes said Obafemi was a great player for us last season. He was one of our top goal scorers, but this season, not really sure what he's done. Something along those lines.
I love that.
Yeah,
I did like that.
A little bit of a burn.
But can you imagine, though? Like, imagine you're playing. Yeah, imagine you're playing in
gritty.
That,
that's what he
captain.
did.
Yeah, you're captain of that club, right? Grimes plays week in, week out, 90 minutes. Plays well every week. Most weeks, guaranteed 8 out of 10. And you've got a player like that who's like, nah, I don't fancy it. I fancy it 3. You're not just gonna like walk into the training thing and be like, oh yeah, you're right, mate. Like, how's it going? You'd be like, sorry, what are you doing?
Yeah.
So that and he probably recognizes that affected the window as well. So I love that he's come out and said, like, well, basically stuff him. Like, he hasn't done anything for us this season. He's sulked, so we crack on. I love that.
And the way you went to Burnley and I was, I really needed to push this move through. Like, yeah, didn't really. They probably don't like reading that either, do they? Like the players.
This just could be a step, like, that kind of made myself feel a little bit better. That it's not completely bad, but we'll see in the next couple of weeks. But
I feel like the season's done. To be honest, I just feel like
the season is done. The season
I'm ready
is
for next year
done.
again. Now this happened last January, I think, or at least not long after. I was like, I'm ready for next season.
Yeah, things need to change, though. I think. Whatever it is, there's a lot of things across the board that need changing. Not the manager, though. For now.
Yeah, I just don't think that fixes anything, does it? Like, you might not be doing the best job possible, but what are you going to do better right now? I just don't know.
No, again, by me criticising it, I know I don't want him gone. I'm just thinking, because if he goes now, I think is a message for everyone. I think if he walks now and if he walks or he gets sacked, I think we are really in the shit.
Yeah.
Because who do we bring in? And we've got to start again.
Graham Potter, maybe.
Yeah, maybe if he gets sacked at Chelsea, yeah.
That would be.
But also, I think, like I said,
he left because he knew it was going to come in. Let's be honest.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but again, this frustrates me a little bit because, and this is where I think Russell Martin has been quite clever as well. Like, he's positioned himself so well, where he's like, well,
same as Cooper, though, isn't it?
Yeah, but when Cooper did it, exactly when Cooper did it, he got absolutely annihilated. Russell Martin is doing the same thing. He's basically all the things he says. He's not stupid. He's saying like, look, I'm working. He's basically saying like, look, I'm working with all these restrictions. To the outside, he just looks great, doesn't he? People are thinking like, oh, he's doing a really hard job there.
Cooper got slated, and he got us to the playoffs twice, and he got slated.
Exactly. This is what I'm saying. I don't understand.
But we're not even anywhere near that now.
This is what I mean. I don't understand these different narratives. Like, Cooper was doing the same thing, and it was like
Forest as well, isn't he? They've kind of picked up a lot.
Yeah.
for us.
Good manager. Like Russell Martin is a good manager as well. I can say they're good managers. But then we're in a position now where you can't say anything negative against Russell Martin, and then before you weren't allowed to say anything positive about Cooper. It's like, well, I just don't understand it. But there you go.
Crazy.
Let's have a manager we need a consistent manager though for like 5 or 6 years.
I don't know if he'll be there that long, but consistent
I won't.
will be enough. Okay, on that note, we'll call it a day there. So thanks very much. Let us know in the comments if you agree or what your thoughts are on everything that we discussed. Kind of didn't really have any answers. We're just talking about the situation more than anything. So hopefully you found it insightful if you did make it this far. So let us know in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe if you did enjoy. And we shall hopefully see you next week. I'm sure we'll get one out next week. We could talk about the actual football, maybe a little bit more as well.
Yeah.
See you in a bit.
See you soon.